So our next session deals with wellness aesthetics. Actually, we see so many glossy, nice pictures online all the time on social media, and these two women actually think about what influence these have on culture, society, on health, and yeah. With no further ado, I would like to introduce Andrea Goetzke, cultural producer and curator of various events, and Cecilia Palmer, designer and developer for fashion and web. And they will perform a dialogue. I'm very curious to hear what this will be about. Thank you.
Yes. So, hi, welcome. And thank you for coming for this one of the last slots of the Republica. Be here with us. And this is not...
We are waiting for the slides.
We are waiting.
We can start.
Well, yes.
Nah.
So, we're here to talk about wellness and aesthetics and beauty and its complications on further areas in society. But to start with ourselves. Well, we both like to feel good, to eat well, live healthy, take care of ourselves. I mean, basically, we like wellness, and it does make sense to take care for yourself. Also, we love glossy surfaces, facial creams, and there's pampering. And so, as you can see, we prepared this slideshow for you with pictures that we enjoy. So we hope you enjoy too.
Yeah, actually, this idea to do this talk was a bit inspired by a visit to the spa of mine at the beginning of the year, around the time when you had to submit the papers, and I was like floating there in the outdoor pool. It's a spa that opened near Hauptbahnhof, for those of you who are from Berlin who might have been there, and like thinking about how this whole like wellness temple landscape is maybe like less about the body in a natural sense in a way, but shares lots of aesthetics with technology or airports or something. It's about like total like seamlessness, convenience, glossiness, and so a yoga studio and a Mac store are not so far apart somehow aesthetically.
Yes, and so what is this wellness aesthetic we're talking about? As you said, it's this glossy, seamless appearance, and it has something which it's real, but in an unreal way.
Kind of beautiful.
Well, it's kind of beautiful. It's like creating nature and chaos, romanticism and tech together. Pretty, and most of all, maybe unproblematic.
There was this quote just up there that we put up from the Berlin-based philosopher Byung-Chul Han, who published a book last year about beauty, and he discusses in a quite romantic way, I feel like, different philosophers' approaches to beauty, and he starts out in the first chapter talking about glossiness, and he uses examples of Jeff Koons, the balloon dog, also of iPhones. And he writes how the glossy like begs for the like, you want to touch it, you mirror yourself in it, and at the same time it kind of eliminates the differentness or negativity of the other. This is how he writes it. So there's not really, so it's just, you know, it's just positive. There's no real space for a spot. Or if there is a spot, it's really a problem.
Yeah, but this is also, I think, I remember we used to have a method for this when I was younger, when I was in school. Because basically, like, if you would, and I know it might still be around, like, I don't know, with the kids. If you say something negative to me, I can put up my hand as a mirror to you, and it just bounces right off back to you. So I just go mirror, mirror, and anything you tell me will just be about you.
So like, don't be a hater, you know, I want to be happy, which brings us to the topic of happiness, kind of the next chapter in our scripted, unmoderated dialogue here. So I'm the one who is quoting the books today. There is this book also published last year by Carl Cederström and Andres Beiser. And that's called the wellness syndrome. And they talk at length in that book about a thing that they call the Happiness Doctrine, coming from the idea of neoliberal self-optimization, so the internalization of control. You don't have an outside person to tell you, oh no, you have to do this or that, but it's all like inside yourself. You tell yourself to be productive and to be good and all this. And they outline with many different examples how this doctrine to be happy and well, meaning healthy and fit, feeds into this self-optimization thing, and how the wellness command transforms every activity, like including eating and sleeping, into an opportunity to optimize pleasure and to become more productive. And they use many examples, like mostly from the US, UK, and Scandinavia, from wellness contracts that are signed, that you sign when you enter a university at several universities in the US, where you say, okay, I sign that I'm going to work out and eat healthy and so on, to various positive thinking books and the proliferation of life coaching like all over the place, and how everyone for themselves pursues like the perfect human, and also how health and happiness are always a choice for yourself that you can pursue. You can always choose to do that. And the result, that's their conclusion, of this like pressure to constantly be happy and have an enjoyable day, and of this narrative, actually causes lots of anxieties and feelings of guilt, because by all means trying to be happy does not make you so happy after all. So while you can have a positive attitude to life, that doesn't mean that you always actually feel happy, because this is more something that kind of happens to you. It's not something which you can really force on yourself. And this also connects back to the experience at the spa, which was just, when I was there, just offering so many like yogurt peeling, honey infusion, water baths, like so many things that had a kind of a spa FOMO moment there, where I was felt like I could not really relax, because I was like constantly torn between the different things that that I could do to just feel better.
Yeah, and I think it's an environment where you're, as you say, you're supposed to be happy. But I think it's as well, like as you know, in life, as you're changing between the screen and then going outside, seeing real people, going back to the screen, and you quickly get accustomed to this, to the interface, to the digital interface, where it tends to work, where you can push buttons and everything is smooth and it looks good. And it goes to a point where sometimes you get so accustomed to this, so then when you go outside, it's not like the user interface of life just sometimes really sucks. But you have already built up this expectation that things should just like be work and be really nice to you, and then you have like this gap between technology and real life that becomes problematic. And then I think like when we're talking about the self, we also need to talk about our homes, because it's just become this like extension of ourselves, and it's just as it's important to like grooming is important for self-presentation and everything. Tidying and cleaning at home has become very important. And for example, you might be familiar with this Japanese author called Marie Kondo, she's written several books about organizing and tidying. Especially she wrote this bestseller called The Life-Changing Magic of Tidying Up. That's sold in many languages, in many countries. It's also put her to Time magazine's list of 100 most influential people last year. And she has this method, which is central to this method called the KonMari method. It is that you go through your things, and you only keep those things that spark joy. So it is about organizing and being clean, but it also is about being happy, and to just have happy, nice things. So basically, you just, it's also about, it's detoxing everything so that everything that is not desirable comes out of the way.
And, well, bringing this back to health, the thing is that you can always do better. And choose to do better. And this is nothing new, of course. It's in a paper by Zygmunt Bauman, who also spoke here last year at Republica. He writes in a paper from 1998 about the difference that he sees between health and fitness, kind of seeing health as something that has more objective criteria, but against this is fitness. Fitness is never done. There's no objective criteria. You set the goals yourself, and you can always improve.
Yeah, and it's also, I'm noticing, like, among all the positive thinking and the good vibes and the improving ourselves, I've been lately, like maybe the last 2 years, so I thought I didn't have to work on that. And suddenly I started person, which kind of sucks, of course, because it's supposed to be like that. But then I really, because it almost started when I was criticizing things, to not kind of pollute the mental environment of the person I was talking with. And this came up because we were talking about things and criticizing a lot. And I realized, like, well, actually, maybe I didn't change, but maybe, or was it me who changed, or was it the surroundings that changed, and that this criticizing things is just not so welcome?
One more thing I'd like to add to this, also going back to health, and this is also another example from that the book, The Wellness Syndrome, that I mentioned earlier. I think it becomes kind of problematic where health becomes kind of a moral category. For example, in several clinics in the US, they changed, like, from forbidding to smoke at the workplace to not hiring smokers. So it becomes like from a habit to going back to the actual person. So if you're a smoker, you just cannot work here. So you're a bad person, kind of. You can't. So it's not a thing of personal choice, but it becomes something that is for your whole personality.
Yeah, and that it's not that it's about that it feels good to be healthy, which ultimately it does, and I think that is a good reason to be healthy, but that it's so much more this about being a better person. And also, for example, to go back to this Marie Kondo and extreme tidying and decluttering, is like the opposite of decluttering and tidying, which would be hoarding. Stuff is something which is extremely shameful. Like, you have reality TV shows exploiting this topic, well, basically of hoarding stuff, also of other things, of eating too much, of having too much debt, and just having too much of stuff. And with this implication that basically eating too much, eating too bad, having too much, it's something that makes you morally inferior, and it's something that allows other people to laugh about you.
So I think it becomes problematic. It's, of course, I like to live healthy, but I think it becomes problematic at a point where self-optimization, including wellness and happiness, is in the ultimate service of productivity and efficiency. I think this is where kind of the breaking point is. And yeah, I mean, of course, it's not your personal issue. You're costing everyone money when you're sick, and everybody else is trying to stay healthy.
Well, possibly. Well, so I recently read an article with some examples from Swedish companies that had introduced not only fitness in the workplace, but mandatory fitness and workout. So that people, if you work that way, basically you have to do exercise during work time. And the most extreme case was a water company where it would even have a negative influence on your salary if you would not comply and do your exercise. Or it would raise less if you wouldn't take part in this. And I think this also raises questions, like with the whole productivity thing, is like, who does the body belong to? Is it, and especially like in such a situation with an employer and employee, whose body is it?
Also, more and more companies are offering mindfulness workshops or relaxation or meditation classes at work. And one could, while of course this is a nice thing, one could also argue that structural problems at the workplace are being turned onto the individual. So if you have lots of stress at work, you go to meditation class, and just feel better about it.
Yes, and by all means, like, you don't join the union, but go to yoga, because it will, it will be the quicker way to make you feel better about your work situation.
There, on one of the slides before, there was a quote that actually is from a work contract that I have signed, whereas in the standard work contract nowadays, it says that you're supposed to improve your health when you're sick. So, I mean, you're at home, but still kind of your behavior kind of belongs to the workplace.
Yeah, and it's those things, I think, I see this a parallel to, well, in the earlier times, during the industrialization, or especially in the early 1900s, there was this methodology called Taylorism. It was an early form of scientific management to improve productivity on the work floor and improve processes. So this was during the time where you went from craft production to mass production, and it basically, well, it was about changing the workflows and the tasks that workers had. And it has, I mean, the Taylorism way of doing things, it changed a lot of things, but it's also been abandoned since maybe the 30s and some places later, and also a lot criticizing for alienating workers and just not giving them the same agency that they might have had before as craftsmen and so on. And yeah, and this is the thing, that like the whole thing also with wellness seems to be like this fresh new thing, especially in the workplace, and it's so great, when an employer enables people to take care for themselves during work time. But I think it's also somehow, in the end, it's just a new form of doing the same thing, of raising productivity, because it's ultimately not about people individually to feel better. It's just about to create workers that work more effectively. So, yeah, it's about trying this whole, what we talked about, trying to be the perfect human, and the wellness, improvement, and glossy aesthetics relate in that sense very much to the technologically enhanced human, or the technology replacing the two human parts of the human. Exactly, and it's also, I mean, it's a lot also about treating the body like a machine that you can enhance, and you can pimp it and improve it. And I think it's also like this, the wellness idea, it's connected a lot to enhancement and to the technologically enhanced body. And it's basically, it takes us also a little bit closer to cyborgs, and we can have functional food as fuels for like this machine, and it's just to remove some of the human factors and just like improve the machinery of our bodies.
Lots of technology and medicine improving the human body and human life is very great, though. And I would not want to miss it. Like also to self-improve, to practice something, to become really amazing at something is really good.
No, I think that is also great. And I mean, I go to yoga because I feel better, and also in my mind and in my body, and I like doing these things. And I would definitely like advocate for them. And I think also I use things like the Nike running app. I think that's really fun. Although it's kind of weird that I couldn't see and they can see where I'm going and those things. But at the same time, I think it's like this. Well, basically, like where you have like the whole idea of like the quantified self and self-tracking, using, like with a Fitbit or anything else, any kind of fitness tracker. I think there is on another level, there's also a way of simplifying a lot of complexity of being human. Like, I mean, you have a body, it gives you signals and it shows you things, but it's much easier to get a data set, or like that you have data points that will tell you something instead of having to feel and pick up on signals from your body.
So do I feel full, or does my blood sugar level measure as saturated?
Exactly. And maybe it is also like, is your feeling correct, or is the other thing wrong if they don't match up?
So we're talking a lot about human this, so we are more thinking human than post-human, kind of in a way. I had one quote up that came before from a Test Card magazine article that I thought really recommend to read, which is about a simulated conversation between artificial intelligence and a human, and where it says that we're using technology to build a world where humans cannot be sinful, lazy, or imperfect, but where you can either function or disturb.
Yeah, and yeah, this is the thing. I mean, it doesn't want to leave so much space for other things, I think, because it wouldn't be so convenient. And well, basically, I would also refer here a little bit to Mayo sitting here. She just gave a very interesting talk about self-driving car and ethics an hour or so ago. And well, basically, it's the thing. You know, it's super convenient as long as the cars are just. As long as if there's just self-driving cars, everything will work. But it's not. And shit's problematic. And this is the same thing, I think, with the whole idea, like with this whole glossiness. It's like, it's very fragile, and it's easy to break the system. And there is, I think, also with the fitness trackers, it's also a question of what are they tracking? I mean, I know they track a lot of things, a lot of biodata. But I mean, do they track like which books you read lately? Do they track like when was the last time you spoke up for yourself or for someone else, or the last time, like how often you care for other people? Because it's all like stuff. It's super important. It's very healthy. It's very important for intellectual hygiene and mental well-being and those things. And this is just factors that don't get in. But I would say that they are at least as important as your heart rate on the big picture, and also just for health. So,
yeah, I would agree on that. I think we start another topic that we planned to talk about. We may be stretching it a bit with that, but we still want to do it. So we talked about the anxiety and pressure to be well, and about the perfect body, and so on. But a problematic step further that we discussed about when we prepared this topic is the expectation to be well. On this topic, we found some pictures that you've already seen on the screen from an exhibition called Biopolitics that was published in this magazine, and that was inspired by the anticipatory aesthetics of the swimming pool on the Greek island of Samos, where tourists on the beach meet refugee life jackets, and where this expectation to be well clashes with reality.
Yes, and there is I mean, that exhibition is showing that really well, and also like on this friction in between those the worlds, like the convenient part and just the problematic real shit. And yeah, it's the same. I think that you have this on a technology level, you expect things to work seamlessly. And when you have this expectation, you don't want to be let down. It's very easy to be very annoyed as soon as something doesn't load fast enough, the internet goes down, or the same thing, like it's the same thing. Maybe like if you're in traffic, it's very annoying when there's roadblocks, even if, you could expect them to be there because it's a part of like normal maintenance, is that you have to kind of dig holes and renew the road to keep it working, and that those obstacles is just part of the game. And still, it's really easy to be annoyed because there's something that gets into your way, so it's not seamless. And that's, I think, why like I would say that many people are ready to pay quite a lot for that quality, for that seamlessness, especially in the terms of, hardware, software, products that we use. And then either you like pay in cash, or maybe more often like to pay with personal data, because it has a price, but then it's worth it because you get this nice experience.
Mm-hmm. I think what we're talking about is, of course, about like a privilege. Like wellness is a privilege, and what I find problematic is that lots of people have the opinion that we have the right to to wellness and to our standard of living, like feel like kind of an entitlement to be well. I think this is like the ultimate thing what we talk about, while other people, like for example, outside of Europe, don't have this to the same degree, this right.
Yeah, so then following that logic, you mean that you can also say that, for example, it would then also be okay to keep refugees outside of our country or the EU, and then we could call that a solution? Like as soon as a situation messes up too much and we can like keep our country clean and well in order?
Or when people are discussing, like, can you actually travel to that country, or is it just too dirty? That always makes me angry. I mean, while I'm totally against like poverty tourism or something, but these comments make me angry because there are usually like 10,000 people living in those places where those people talk about that it's too much to bear to go there. And I heard an interesting talk a lecture at Haus der Kulturen der Welt here last year by Marina Grinic, Slovenian philosopher, where she talked about the different approaches to politics for people within, like those productively contributing, and those outside, like outside the EU, outside of productivity. So it's biopolitics, be more human than human, ins for within, and necropolitics, so you can die because you are still too human. This is maybe too short. You can also look this up. It's an interesting talk from her. Yeah, so it's also a matter of power structures and privilege. And I think from here we have to wrap up to the conclusion quite quick. We have
really
3 minutes.
Yeah, so well, basically, to conclude, like, what is the problem then with convenience? It's great. I mean, love it. It's nice, and this is. Well, you could say, okay, I'll take this example quickly also. It's like if you call me on a day that I plan everything really well, and I'm a really good, productive human, so I work and I feel good, and then you, as my friend, you call me and you have a problem. Like, of course I want to be there for you, begin to help you out and to be a friend, but it really messes up my day. And it's totally inconvenient. And it's sometimes so annoying.
So I think, we're not going to provide the 10-point conclusion because this is exactly what we're criticizing. But maybe one further thought, in another article in The Guardian, there was recently about the ancient Chinese philosophers, not that I'm an expert on this, like those Confucius or Lao Tzu, or so they were also talking about becoming better persons, improving yourself. But however, it was more by looking outward, like by recognizing that we are complex creatures, constantly pulled in different directions, and that it's through working on interactions, experiences, and responses that we grow. So it's like recognizing complexity and learning to deal with that, and this is how we improve.
Yes, exactly, and I think it's also like maybe you've seen this quote by this guy called Söderström, who also wrote Wellness Syndrome, who said, when we can no longer influence the development of society, we tend to turn the focus inwards to ourselves. And I think often you can see that symptom also happening with people. Yeah, and I think it's also, convenience is a great thing, and it's great to design processes to be more efficient in daily life, to be more smooth in interaction with other people. But there has to be a place in that narrative as well for critical thinking, for dissidence and debate, and not leave it out.
So yeah, I think also, actually seeing several talks the past days, I think this notion came through in several of the talks that it's a problem that complexity is kind of being designed away. Richard Sennett, for example, ended his talk on Monday with the sentence, "Tensions open people up, not comfort." And I think we would kind of conclude that it's important to recognize that there are problems. It's important to recognize the other, also as something disturbing. But deal with the disturbing thing. It's better than trying to clean everything away, and makes you happier after all if you know you're going to be disturbed.
Yeah,
That
and
this would be
deal with
kind
the
of it.
complexity and enjoy the complexity
So,
instead.
so except the crack in the mirror that somehow wears on our slides, but they kind of stopped showing there. We had some, yeah.
I think it's because we have to go.
Okay. Okay. Good, but that's it. You only missed that last slide. That was really good on that, but yeah, it's not showing.
Oh no, it's broken. It was broken. It was something
It was a broken glass on the floor.
Oh.
Sorry.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you.